Part 2 of the Week 3 preview continues here on the Audible. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Carolina versus the Raiders. It's likely to be different with Andy Dalton, better with Andy Dalton. But how much so? And is there any fantasy gold or aluminum
Tin,
to be
scrap
mined
metal.
here?
Yeah, it makes me think of my stepdad, Mike Belsky, may he rest in peace. A boxer, a coal miner, and as a kid, he was a river rat down the Monongahela River gathering up scrap metal. That's what you're doing in fantasy if you're looking in
Yeah.
this Panthers offense. And is it going to be better with Dalton? It has to be better with Dalton. Is it going to be better enough to matter for fantasy? Well, for this week, let's remember the Raiders' defense is pretty good. Raiders have a pretty good defense. Okay, that's the strength of the Raiders team. So this might not be the best indicator. So it makes Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen. See, I wouldn't be surprised if all those targets go to Adam Thielen and not Deontay Johnson, because that's who Dalton has played with, and he's just a more consistent player. So we'll see. That's going to be something to watch. And also, just are we going to see that Dave Canales can coach? He can scheme things up. He can elevate a quarterback because he has a quarterback that can actually be elevated instead of just on his toes. And then Chuba Hubbard becomes a what the heck flex. But I think the most important thing about this whole incident with Bryce Young getting bench seats is something we've talked about on the show for a while, which is you can't lose the locker room. You cannot lose the locker room. And surprisingly, the Panthers are one of the oldest rosters in the league. And they also have a ton of guys that are going to be free agents next year. So how are you going to get those guys to risk everything every week when they know they can't win? And Dave Canales made the right decision, or maybe David Tepper made the right decision. Somebody made the right decision. And if it didn't make sense to you, just know you cannot lose the locker room.
You cannot lose it. And, we'll see what they do. We'll see what the Raiders do offensively to get things going. It's Carolina, so start your Raiders this week. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be all about Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers. They'll be starters for you for sure, but there will be others this week.
Yeah, we're seeing that Gardner Minshew can elevate this pass offense. Brock Bowers can. And then I think this is a Zamir White game. I think this has got to be a Zamir White game, right? Unless, even if it's toe-to-toe, I do think we saw White's snap percentage go up last week. He's actually involved in the passing game. And this just feels like a game where he's going to have a chance to get a 1-yard touchdown, maybe more than one-yard touchdown, and otherwise have that Antonio Pierce game plan from late last year where he gets 20-plus carries and puts the lean on the defense that doesn't have Derek Brown, by the way. Yeah, they lost their best player on defense at the beginning of the season. So Raiders, if they're a good team, they should dispose of a bad team. If they can do that, we're one step closer to talking about this maybe being a surprise playoff contender in the AFC.
Yeah, Miami and Seattle up next. Miami and the changes, of course, with Skylar Thompson out there. And with their team being banged up, or while watching the injury reports, traveling across the country to face Seattle and that Mike McDonald faux Baltimore Ravens defense. What will Skylar Thompson and company have in store this week?
How bad is it going to be, right? That's the question about Miami's offense. Just how bad is it going to be? Some of it will be Mike McDonald. Some of it will be what Seattle can do. Now, it's interesting because Seattle has those outside corners, but if you were going to match up in a favorable matchup against Seattle, it would be with smaller, quicker receivers. And that's exactly what Miami has. But can Skylar Thompson unlock that? Can Mike McDaniel scheme that up? Can Mike McDaniel understand what Skylar Thompson can and can't do and adapt his offense to that? So our expectations are low. Tyreek Hill's got to be in your lineup. It only takes one play. They're going to give him those plays. I would expect a lot of manufactured touches for Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle is more of what the heck flex. Devin Achane should have company in the backfield. Raheem Mostert and or Jeff Wilson Jr. back. Jalen Wright maybe should have been and shut him down if we knew that back on Monday and Tuesday. Achane still in your lineup, but maybe not high as a ceiling. Certainly not as high of a ceiling because Skylar Thompson, but also with a little bit of company back there, which could be good. You don't want them to overwork him. And then Jonnu Smith is there. Again, we saw it with Hunter Henry last week. We didn't see it with Greg Dulcich. He's running the routes, but not the targets in week one. You're going to attack the middle of the field. That's Jonnu Smith. So if you're looking for what the heck tight end play, that's your guy.
Yeah, that's your guy. Geno Smith is their guy in Seattle, and he's leading the way. Watch the injury report for the running back situation with Kenneth Walker. Again, full disclosure, it's Thursday morning when we record this, so let's put a pin in that
Yeah.
and then see what those receivers can do. Maybe a little bit more Tyler Lockett or JSN continuing to do more as the season goes on.
One of the things you got to like about Seattle and Ryan Grubb is week 1, they go run heavy with Kenneth Walker. Week 2, they go pass heavy with Kenneth Walker hurt and the offensive line getting no push. Will the offensive line get a push against Miami? Miami teams have run on them pretty well successfully. So I'm assuming we're not going to see Ken Walker. Zach Charbonnet is a strong running back 2 play. He's going to get all the volume. Geno Smith is a solid quarterback 2 super flex, maybe creeping up into quarterback 1 territory. If we see Ryan Grubb being willing, if they can't get a push and we go back to a pass heavy game plan for Geno Smith, then maybe Geno Smith, there's more there than we thought. DK Metcalf, you got to play. And I think Jackson Smith and Jigba after last week, you got to play. Now, again, we might not get the pass heavy game plan that fueled all those PPR numbers, but we also know that everything worked against Miami last week. This is a team, if anything, we have to wonder, where is this season headed for Miami? How does Mike McDaniel get them to respond? We know how Seattle's going to respond at home in front of the 12th man. And this is a team, see, a lot of people asking, San Francisco injuries, Rams injuries, Arizona, Seattle. There's opportunity for one of these teams to maybe take this division.
How is Baltimore going to react? Hell, how is Dallas going to react? On the flip side, it's like, okay, both of these teams, a lot to prove. Baltimore traveling to face how about them Cowboys, and they're 0-2, man. You don't want to be 0-3. Dallas has got their own problems. We'll get to that in a little bit. I feel like Lando throwing on his cape. I got my own problems.
Yeah.
After Han punches him in the face in Cloud City. Anyway, fantasy GMs need to punch the face of their opponent. So how's Lamar Jackson going to help them this week?
Derrick Henry, a lot of Derrick Henry. You can run
They
on
said
Dallas.
no. They said no. They're like, we're not going to give him like.
Okay.
Well, they better.
They better, because you can run on Dallas. You can put their defense on skates. And that's going to be the answer to settle this offense down. I mean, Lamar Jackson's still a play here. Zay Flowers is still a play here. Mark Andrews, tight ends rough out on them streets. Maybe even Isaiah Likely. But I think this has got to be a big Derrick Henry game. And also, it's early in the season. He's not used up yet. So absolutely, this is a game. We saw what New Orleans did to the Dallas defense last week. And it starts with the run. This, especially with Lamar Jackson and the tension that he creates, forcing 11-on-11 football. He can get in the open field and make big plays. I think this is a pretty simple game plan for Baltimore. You keep running until Dallas proves they can stop the run. And I think for Dallas, Baltimore is going to blanket CD Lamb until somebody in Dallas's offense proves they can be a reasonable threat to help out Dak Prescott.
Yeah, somebody's got to help out, and we'll see now against Baltimore. What kind of a task is that for someone other than CD Lamb to help out on the Cowboys offense?
We hope that Jake Ferguson's back and he's effective. And Jake Ferguson should be in your lineup unless somehow you drafted him as your tight end 2 behind Trey McBride or Brock Bowers or something like that. Jalen Tolbert, a lot of his stuff came late, but if this is a game where Dallas is down 2 scores, maybe Jalen Tolbert scratches out what the heck flex start there. Brandon Cooks just doesn't seem that explosive. Again, the problem here is if teams take away CD Lamb, what's the counterpunch? We know it's not the running game. No, it's definitely not the running game. And yeah, Dallas, like you said, Cease, the headline on this game is, boy, Baltimore, a tough on paper road game. They can't fall to 0-3. But I think that what we may come out of this game saying is, if Dallas isn't facing a flustered Deshaun Watson, is this team headed for the top 10, 12 of the draft?
Yeah, this next matchup, not what it used to be, because all the damn injuries for the Rams. It's the 49ers and the Rams up next. 49er side feeling good, even though coming off of last week, they're feeling good going into LA because, well, their rival is down.
Right.
So they should be up.
Well, that's the big question here, Cease. Does a rivalry fuel the hatred, the intensity, so that even throw out the records, right? Isn't that what we love to say in rivalry games? Throw out the records. Well, you throw out the records when one team has already filled up their 8 IR return spots in its week 3.
Yeesh.
We'll see. But you have to think a lot of success for San Francisco on offense here, because some of the injuries are on defense for the Rams, by the way. They also traded away one of their best linebackers because, well, they didn't think he's one of their best linebackers, Ernest Jones, before the season. So it's a short end. Aaron Donald retired. So with Debo Samuel out, and that was great, by the way, after all the injuries we endured. Oh, footnote, by the way, Debo Samuel also got hurt, even though he had a great game, and he's going to miss some time. Brandon Ayuk rounding into form. He's in your lineup. George Kittle, that's one of the success stories, probably again this week at tight end. Jordan Mason, one of the biggest success stories in fantasy drafts. And maybe Juwan Jennings, what the heck, flex? It depends. Actually, if the game is competitive, if the Rams can hang around, that's probably better for Juwan Jennings. And then I'm just going to say for a dynasty note, watch out for Jacob Cowing here. A smaller receiver, acceleration, quickness. They like him. I think there's some things that you do with Debo Samuel that you can try to do with Jacob Cowing. So for deep dynasty, just keep that guy in mind. And for the Rams, you just keep in mind that they're going to be rubbing two sticks together on offense.
How much did you believe in Demarcus Robinson? Because, oh boy, fantasy GMs are scrambling. So the Rams, it'll be a ragtag group of rebels
Right.
at home, I guess. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and with the most underwhelming home field advantage, there's going to be more 49ers fans than Rams fans in the building anyway, right? So if there's a play here, I mean, of course, Kyron Williams, low ceiling running back too. It's a shame in some ways that Kyron Williams is probably going to get a ton of touches in this game because you're at risk of Sean McVay using him up when this is one of the least potent offenses in the league. But he's still in your lineup. And Demarcus Robinson, a deeper what the heck flex. I'd say more desperation play. If there's a guy to play from the passing game, it's Jordan Whittington. And we know that Jordan Whittington's skill set kind of maps to Cooper Kupp. We know they love Whittington. The Rams have, and maybe he's not this year's Puka Nakua, but he is a player that is suited for the role he's going to be given. And after Kupp went out last week, Whittington just took his spot on the field. That was it. It wasn't like when Nakua went out, when there's some Tyler Johnson, some Tutu Atwell. So we'll see. And then again, see the other thing in the background, and you can comment on this briefly if you want, but I've seen it floated out there with Matthew Stafford in basically a contract year. Could he get traded at the deadline, or is that just us making up stuff because we play fantasy football?
Yeah, it's fantasy football, but yeah, you never know. Put yourself in position for the next guy. They wanted the next guy to be Bo Nix. They didn't get him. So many things I could go on. I'm so into ass crack and ball sack mode because our guy Mel Kiper was like, they should outlaw cover 2 defense.
Okay,
What?
Mel. What?
All right.
That's not how
Calm
football
down there,
works.
Mel. Right.
Yeah.
Pepperidge Farm remembers. They'll figure it out. It's a pendulum, everybody. It's a pendulum. 4 games down, 4 games to go. More ass crack and ball sack coming up. Poor
Sorry, Joe.
Sorry, Joe. Could you please stop talking about your ass crack, buddy? Lions and Cardinals. And, well, one team's hot and one team's not. So let's start with the not in Detroit. Your Lions, Bloom. How do they get back on top this week on the road against the Cardinals?
I think they run the ball. Remember, this is an offense that has multiple modes, and one of them is running the ball. I think that's how the 55 pass. Cease. Isn't this classic, right? When a team throws the ball 55 times and loses 20-16, what happens the next week? They don't throw the ball 55 times. I'll tell you that. Maybe more like 25 times. And you have the guys in Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. You get these guys 30, 35 touches. I think that's what you're going to see. And of course, you're going to keep playing Jameson Williams. You're going to keep playing Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're lowering expectations a little bit for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but you know that high floor is there. And you know that with Jameson Williams, it just takes one. Sam Laporta is the guy that we're wondering about. And maybe that's the other answer here. Some passes to Laporta. You run, set up the pass downfield to Jameson Williams, set up the pass off of play action to Sam Laporta running up the seam. You got to stick with Laporta, probably. I mean, I'm not going to recommend to people to bench him in this one. And the other question here is Arizona's defense good? They were kind of good for a quarter or so against Buffalo, and then everything Josh Allen did worked in the second half. And then they were just facing a demoralized Rams team. The game was over in the first quarter. So I don't know. This is quick cease name like 3 players on the Cardinals defense. This is
Right.
a no-name defense. Jonathan Gannon's a good coach, but this is you can name a lot of players on the Lions offense. We just did, and they should be able to have success. This is your potential shootout of the week.
Success abounds. And check out the overhead view of Kyler Murray on the
Oh, I
field.
know.
Like that was really cool. Or like video game mode, old school, like even
Tecmo
Tecmo
Bowl.
Bowl,
Yeah.
tabletop football, right? Like
Yeah.
now we're dating ourselves. We're old, but let's talk about Kyler Murray and the youngster Marvin Harrison Jr. getting excited, open things up for Trey McBride. James Conner celebrating in the end zone. Like, yeah, put it together. Cardinals, you've got an opportunity here.
And again, we're looking at where within the polar opposites of week 1 and week 2 is this pass offense going to fall? Because we saw in week 1, just passes close to the line of scrimmage, not really much working downfield. And in week 2, everything working downfield to Marvin Harrison Jr. So Kyler Murray could easily, if it's closer to week 2, if it wasn't just that the Rams are demoralized and their defense is not very good, then we really could be looking at Kyler Murray as a potential top 3 fantasy quarterback this year. And we could be looking at Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe not quite living up to his early second round redraft status, but getting a lot closer than that than it looked like week 1. I mean, he's got to be in your lineup this week. Detroit doesn't have anybody, at least on paper, that can check him. And you're loving if you took James Conner right now, because this looks like a good offense, and he looks good. Remember, he could have had another touchdown, fumbled into the end zone where Trey McBride, Colorado State Rammies, baby. You're loving it if you took Trey McBride right now. It's the one out of the top 5 tight ends that looks good. And I think that we saw the Lions one play from the Super Bowl last year. They're not even the upstart anymore. They have expectations. Maybe those expectations are weighing on them. And if the Cardinals can win this game, because this is also, I think this is a good game for Cease. Is Jonathan Gannon the next Dan Campbell? In the sense that we're saying they're ahead of schedule. We
Yes.
gave them 3 or 4 years, but here it is year 2, and they're ahead of schedule. I think that if the Cardinals can win this game, again, we have to talk about them as a legitimate division champion contender.
Offensive coach or defensive coach, just get the right coach. JG's
Yeah,
the right
the
coach.
leader of men. Yeah.
Chiefs and Falcons is up next, and we've got some changes on the Chiefs side with Isaiah Pacheco on IR, Carson Steele. But also, didn't they activate Conte Ingram?
They did.
A little dash of Samaje there as well. So fantasy GMs will be interested in seeing that, and then seeing Mahomes out there dealing against the Falcons.
Cease, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is Isaiah Pacheco to this offense?
7.
So, right.
Yeah,
Not
up there.
trivial. And they already lost to
No.
Hollywood Brown. Okay. So the big question here is this going to be a mediocre offense again? Is it going to be just like last year all over again? And Dwayne McFarland on the couch yesterday, and he said it depends on Xavier Worthy. So Xavier Worthy's in your lineup as a wide receiver 3 flex, and some of it is scheming up Xavier Worthy and his speed. This is the big question here. And you're going to play Rashee Rice, probably going to play Travis Kelce. He did have a 40-some yard catch that was called back by penalty. He almost scored last week. And also, it would make sense that even if they were planning on load management, let's do what we did last year and save him for the playoffs. I think losing Pacheco means you need somebody else to do more. So that could be Kelce. But I'm not loving Patrick Mahomes. He's not in my top 8, 9 quarterbacks this week. If people come to me and say, I'm thinking about starting Baker Mayfield over Patrick, okay. Thinking about starting Derek Carr over, but yeah, I mean, these guys, there's a lot more momentum in their offenses. The Kansas City offense is going backwards right now. So I think this is a game, primetime game Sunday night, and one for us to see is what is the Kansas City offense going to look like without a very important player after already losing somebody that was to hope to make the downfield passing renaissance come back. And Xavier Worthy after week 1, again, not so impactful in week 2.
Yeah, not so impactful, but impactful the momentum of winning for Atlanta, for Kirk Cousins and company out there. You like that? Well, fantasy GMs like that, especially if they get more Drake London, they'll like that. So let's talk some Falcons in, maybe a little bit less high scoring than people would think if KC can't get their offense ramped up.
Yeah, did something happen at the end of that game? It seemed like Kirk Cousins forgot that he didn't trust his Achilles.
Right.
It was the adrenaline of
Magic.
right, we have, under a minute and we have to score to win this game, so let's do it. And what we saw also is those elements come together. Maybe not so much Kyle Pitts, but Darnell Mooney, Drake London, even like Ray McLeod, Bijan Robinson. We were excited about this offense with a competent quarterback. So was that a turning point? We'll see. Kansas City's defense is pretty good. We did see Kansas City give up a ton to Cincinnati tight ends and a ton to Baltimore tight ends. So if it don't happen this week for Kyle Pitts, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. So you're playing Kyle Pitts maybe one more time. I understand if you bench him, but 2 weeks, 2 big tight end lines. I think you got to go with Kyle Pitts here. Drake London is more wide receiver 3 flex, but again, you have momentum here. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier is pretty good, by the way. Make sure he's rostered. And Kirk Cousins, he's a quarterback 2 flex, but we're super flex, but we're mostly concerned about what he's going to do for the value of these other players. So again, a primetime game, Cease, and a lot to learn about these offenses.
Yeah, a lot to learn, and we'll have our handy dandy notebooks out. 2 Monday night games. I'm never a fan of that.
Why?
Never. I don't know. Jacksonville, Buffalo. I don't know. What happened to Tank Bigsby? Huh?
Yeah.
Like what? Huh? Okay. What happened to Trevor Lawrence? All right. Okay, Jacksonville. And hell, I love Doug Peterson. Not as much as I love Harry Roseman, but still, like, something's got to start clicking with
Yeah.
this team. You're up against Buffalo, and they're feeling it. They're feeling like it's this year again.
Right.
See what happens in the postseason. But yeah, Jacksonville, you got a tough one.
Jacksonville plays Buffalo tough. If you look at the recent history of this matchup, Jacksonville plays Buffalo tough. But you can't rely on that if you're Jacksonville, because this team's discouraged. This team is really discouraged, and they could be 2-0. That's the sad thing and that's why they're so discouraged, is they see that they are their own worst enemy. They are underachieving. They are not playing up to the quality of the roster, the quality of the players, including Trevor Lawrence. From a fantasy standpoint, I don't think we're going to see Evan Ingram. So again, Christian Kirk, it's like, if it doesn't happen here, like, when is it going to happen? Tank Bigsby wasn't used on offense, then got hurt, even though he was the better running back in week 1. I have no idea. Play Travis Etienne, and we'll re-examine this next week. I think the question is Brian Thomas Jr., who should be in your lineup as a wide receiver 3 flex. The upside is through the roof. But does Doug Peterson see that? How can your game plan, and I know it's not like a Malik Neighbors game plan where you're going to get him 18 targets, but that's your irresistible force on the field, right? Anybody who watches football can see that you got to account for this guy. You have to, every play, where's Brian Thomas? The best case scenario for Brian Thomas is starting to unfold. He's showing that, unlike Xavier Worthy, he's showing he's more than just a go route guy. He's showing he's more than just speed and size. He has nuance to his game. Jacksonville has to make him central. And then if that happens, everything else can start to open up. Gabe Davis may be a what the heck flex here, but this team is staring at 0-3, and they'll be out of excuses. They'll be out of excuses because Urban Meyer's tiny in the rearview mirror now. We can't put anything on him anymore. It's on the people in the building right now, and they got to get it done.
Yeah, they got to get it done. Like Buffalo's getting it done, and their chemistry coming together. And I do love Keon Coleman as a what the heck flex. We'll get to that here in a couple of segments, Bloom. But let's talk Buffalo and how they're clicking with their guys.
Yeah, Josh Allen and this spread it around. Everyone's going to eat offense. If there's a pass catcher you're going with here, obviously, Dalton Kincaid. Here's a common refrain from week 3. Well, you're going to stick with this tight end for one more week at least, and then you're going to go with Khalil Shakir. That's the guy that Josh Allen's going to look for when things break down. That's the most reliable play in this pass offense. And then James Cook. Woo! Seems like so long ago. That was like just a week ago. It's Thursday. Geez. James Cook. Yeah. In your mind's eye, if you were picturing, if everything goes right, if James Cook develops perfectly, if James Cook is used to his fullest potential in this offense, what could it look like? It could look like what we saw in week 2. And is that the kind of game, Cease, that changes a team's mind about a player? And we already saw in week 1 he was getting goal to go carries. And he got a goal to go carry. Remember, fumbling with Ray Davis, fumbling with James Cook in camp. He got a goal to go carry in week 2 and converted it. He also scored, I think, from like 17 yards out and 40 plus yards out. And we're wondering, because he's going into this season, we're wondering, like, who's the playmaker? Who's the leverage player? We thought maybe it would be Dalton Kincaid. We thought, Curtis Samuel, speed downfield, you do stuff with him as a runner. And we kind of overlooked James Cook. I think Cook had a quiet summer. Ray Davis, he's a solid player. We took Ray Davis, better than Latavius Murray. But James Cook might have showed that he's got a seat at the table every week in this offense. And I think he's the player that could show you he's actually foundational in an offense that looked like they didn't have any foundational players.
Washington, Cincinnati up next. And the Washington side, we continue to learn. We continue to assemble clues as Jaden Daniels continues in his pro career. Learn more about Austin Eckler. He just needs more touches. Brian Robinson there getting all those touches. So, okay, against Cincinnati, how's Washington go on the attack?
I would show them some of what the Jets did last week and say, you've got 2 good running backs. Your running back should probably touch the ball like 60% of the plays, whether it's a passing play or a running play, because Austin Eckler looks good. He looks like good old Austin Eckler, and Brian Robinson's good. So that's the ticket. I mean, see, we talk about playmakers more and more every year. Playmakers, play callers, more and more every year. Cliff Kingsbury don't got a lot of confidence. Don't got a lot of confidence there in Cliff. Is there going to be some vertical passing? Is there going to be? I like Jaden Daniels. There's a lot to work with there. I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury is the guy. Just like Caleb Williams and Shane Waldron. Daniels is showing a little more than Caleb Williams, to be honest. So you're going to play Brian Robinson as running back 2. Eckler is a what the heck flex. Terry McLaurin is a what the heck flex. That's it until we get the downfield passing going. Zach Ertz a what the heck tight end. This is a what the heck offense getting a chance on Monday night against a Cincinnati team, Cease, that just has to be empty, feeling empty, spent, with nothing to show for it, leaving Kansas City.
Right. Cincinnati feeling, I don't know. How is Cincinnati feeling? Right? With everything going on there. And we know the names, we know the games. It's just, are they going to be hot or are they going to be not on the second Monday night game?
Right. You like Joe Burrow in this one. Joe Burrow I'd play over Patrick Mahomes.
Prime time.
Yeah. Prime and Washington's pass defense, Washington's defense in general. I think, if Daniel Jones can get going against them, if Daniel Jones can get off of the plank and back onto the ship, then Joe Burrow is going to be good. But who's it going to be? Jamar Chase. And it's bad Cease when people are speculating, like, well, is he just kind of going through the motions because he didn't get paid? I mean, we're trying to come up with an explanation of why Jamar Chase hasn't been a difference maker through 2 games. I don't think that NFL players can go half speed. Or if they do, you're asking to get hurt. You're asking to have some sort of decent engineering. So I think Jamar Chase is not the kind of player who's going to do that. So I'd expect a big Jamar Chase game here. And Mike Gesicki gets into that what the heck tight end conversation. And Zach Moss, if everything goes as planned for this offense, Zach Moss should get over 15 carries, get some goal line carries. But if Washington hangs around in this game and looks like a match for Cincinnati, then maybe it's time to say, that Super Bowl window, it might not be open anymore.
Boom. Close it. What the heck flex time. You're looking over your lineup. You just need some punch. And what the heck flexes we've gone over, but I'll go over some of mine, Bloom, before I toss the baton to you. Maybe more than a what the heck flex, but Cam Akers with Houston, depending on what happens here with Joe Mixon. Let's talk Antonio Gibson, who worked out nicely as a what the heck flex last week. Braylon Allen, what the heck flex plus. So continue to monitor that situation. If they run the ball as much as they could, and it's not all Derrick Henry, then Justice Hill is a what the heck flex there. And I'll throw in some love for my buddy Jamal Williams as a what the heck flex as New Orleans can't stop scoring. We didn't mention Gabe Davis' revenge game. So what the heck flex level, I suppose. Hell, Christian Kirk's a what the heck flex level. There's Darnell Mooney, probably what the heck flex plus. And Keon Coleman, as I said, is a what the heck flex as well. Bloom, it's week 3. You need some punch in your lineups. Who are some of your week 3 what the heck flexes?
Yeah, with the injuries, Everybody needs it, Cease. The answer is
Ha!
everybody. It's only week 3, and
Right.
everybody needs some punch in their lineup. Running back, I would take a look at, like you said, Braylon Allen, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, and Khalil Herbert, Jerome Ford, Zamir White, Chuba Hubbard, Bucky Irving, especially if he gets those
Yes. Yes.
carries against Denver in the second half. Wide receiver, again, looking for Jalen Tolbert, maybe if Dallas gets behind the 8 ball, Jordan Whittington, Deontay Johnson, or Adam Thielen. Jalen Naylor. I just want to take a moment out and let the Jalen Naylor take breathe. Okay. Jordan Addison, I believe, as of Thursday, hasn't practiced. Even if he plays, I don't know how impactful he'll be. I think he suffered both of his ankles have been injured now so far this year. And Jalen Naylor, they can't stop saying good things about Jalen Naylor. And remember that 97-yard touchdown to Justin Jefferson? Remember how somebody came into the picture much faster than anybody else in the picture to get that last little block, little obstruction for that was Jalen Naylor. Okay. This offense is clicking. So you know how we're seeing Rashid Shaheed get behind the defense every week? That could be Jalen Naylor if Sam Darnold keeps playing like this. And certainly against the Houston Texans, you set that up because it's the McShanahan offenses where you're running this up the pass. And yeah, hey, Houston's defense, they can get after the passer, but if you establish the run, they're going to be a little tentative. So Jalen Naylor's one. Josh Downs, I'm excited to see what Josh Downs is going to do. Back number 1 target for Anthony Richardson. And Lad McConkey, Cece's in my nightmares as a Steelers fan, but he should be in your lineup as a
Ha!
what the heck flex.
That is very true. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter, X at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at the Audible. Help us out, grow the YouTube channel, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And we appreciate you. Watch these other videos. I'm Cecil Lammey, he's Sigmund Bloom. We are the Audible, wherever the videos are. Click on them now. Stay tuned and stay frosty.